Top of the morning, fight fans. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Martin Bakale. Billy Nelson. Get this. Billy Nelson and his fighter, Martin Bakale, vows that they will fight anybody, but excess weight forced a reality check. Nelson insists that diet and discipline will fix it. No excuses. We'll go where we want. And let me counterpunch. I say this about Billy Nelson, about Martin Bakale. He has one more strike. One more. For me, morally for me. Because when Martin Bakale finally got an opportunity, he beat Jared Anderson. And then everyone went ape shit. You know, everybody's like, oh my God, did you see the performance that Martin Bakale gave in that fight? And what he did to Jared Anderson. And Jared Anderson was a guy that was athletic, that was mobile, that had speed. You know, he probably lacked in the power category, but equally talented. So, you know, he kind of made up for all that. And he was going to be that next guy that even Tyson the Gypsy King Fury and his dad, John Fury, in that camp praised so heavily that this was going to be the next guy, the next American heavyweight champion of the world, you know. And then Bakale treated him and, you know, and just threw him around like a rag doll, you know. Well, then the very next fight was Joseph Parker, and Joseph Parker proved that, hey, you know, any heavyweight with any type of punching power can take this guy out. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Okay, that's one. Then he was going to fight Efe Ajagba. That made me question, why are you in the shape that you're in anyway? Because if you're not even in training camp like you had us all thinking that you actually were, even if you were in pre-training camp, you should have been in better shape than that, right? Then he gets laid out. I think that fight was stopped a little early, but still, all in all, it made you think like, okay, this guy's beatable. He's just kind of regular, and then we've seen flaws. Okay. Fights Efe Ajagba. Efe Ajagba outboxes him, a guy that's known to be weak in that category, IQ-wise. You know, mobility-wise, weak in that category. You know, that showed improvement, that showed that he was a problem, and Martin Bakale had no answer. Yes, he showed signs of still being overweight, but he also showed signs possibly being overweight to reflect his stamina. That's two, because they gave him a gift draw in that fight. Well, now we're hearing, oh, he's going on a diet, no excuses. This is what's going to happen. So there you go. You know, we're going to fight anyone. We'll do anything. We'll fight anybody we want to fight. But, you know, the reason for Martin Bakale's last performance, you see, was, and the performance before that, you see, was his diet. Well, the excuses have ran out. So if Martin Bakale comes in at 250 pounds, 40 pounds lighter, and gets laid out, we can kind of discuss what happened, because it happened to Andy Ruiz. You know, he lost too much weight that impacted his power levels and fluid levels and all kind of other levels in his body, right? Mucus levels, hell. But still, you know, you're out of excuses, because we seen you get knocked out by a guy where you were 300 pounds. We also seen you go 10 rounds and struggle against a guy that wasn't even known to be a boxer, but found a way to outbox you pretty much easily. You know, a few rounds there it was Martin punching, but other than that, that was a shoe-in, you know. Now you're saying, okay, well, hey, it's, you know, it's the diet and we're going to do what we want, and, you know, we're no excuses. Okay, well, you've used all the excuses that you're going to use, and that's the third time. That's the third strike. After that, that's no more that you can say about Martin McCauley if he goes in there and gets beat. You know, if it's not a knockout, if it's someone that's able to outbox him and he has the inability to cut off the ring and do his thing, you can't use that no more. He's just not that type of fighter. He's another Andy Ruiz, a guy that you have to come to him to give him the opportunities because he's more of a brawler slash counterpuncher than an actual boxer. You know, and by the way, I love the way Martin fights. You know what I mean? The rounds that he chose or could fight Efe Ajagba and actually took it to him, they were pretty exciting. Now, if he would have done that throughout the fight, it would have been a different fight. But it just proved, though, that Efe Ajagba could take those shots. And I was very impressed with Efe Ajagba's durability because he did take some punches from Martin McCauley. And the type of punches Martin threw were the type of punches that he threw to end the show. And he couldn't end the show with Efe Ajagba. So big up for Efe Ajagba. Niger in the building because he definitely, took those shots, even though he had a bloody nose and all that stuff, but he still took the shots and I felt he still won the fight. So with Billy Nelson saying that there's no more excuses, I think it should be over for both of you guys if he loses again, especially if you can't get his weight down. That means it has nothing to do with you. That has everything to do with Martin McCauley. So if it's up to Martin McCauley, if he wants to eat all that shit he ate in the Congo, if he still wants to do it, then you will probably still see the same result. Then possibly you'll see the same performance. You see, so I don't think that would really matter. And then if that's the case with Martin McCauley, he needs strength and conditioning. They need to add someone like a Chris Algieri, someone that actually knows how to cook him shit, that's going to keep him full and keep him healthy and keep him strong enough, to lose weight on top of keep muscle and power where it needs to go. Because he needs protein. He needs carbs. He needs a combination of both. Being that big, you need food to keep that engine running. You just don't need that type of food to eat and sit on your ass, because it seems like to me, Martin McCauley, that's what he did. He ate and then went to sleep. Just how he's built. He's one of those dudes that didn't take a walk after eating. He ate and then went to sleep with a smile, and then woke up and probably ate again. So he was storing a lot of storage in that closet without taking any out, right? So, because it's easier to store fat than lose it. So that's a fact. But no, I think at this point, we'll see Martin McCauley again. We have no choice based on the proclaim of Billy Nelson that he will be in shape or in better shape and will therefore perform better. But this is the last draw for Martin McCauley and Billy Nelson. There's no more excuses to use. You just got beat. So your fighter is then, at that point, beatable and then should be looked at in a totally different way where we've seen him after the Anderson domination. But you guys tell me what you think of Billy Nelson, the trainer of Martin McCauley, stating that they'll fight anyone. They're going to be in better shape. Of course, please subscribe, like, and share. And you guys been Counterpunch.